before we begin, take one slow breath in and let it go. Let your shoulders soften. There is nothing left to do today. Close your eyes. Let the whole day set down for the night. You are comfortable here. The room is quiet and still. A soft blanket rests over you, light and easy, and your body is starting to feel pleasantly heavy. None of it asks anything of you, so let your hands grow heavy and let your breathing slow. Whatever today needed from you, it is finished now. Tonight there is nothing to carry and nothing to solve. All you have to do is listen and slowly drift. And while you rest, I want to take you somewhere far away. Not a place you can drive to, a place you can only reach in your mind by going back, a very long way back. So, slowly let the room around you begin to fade. Let the walls soften and disappear. Imagine the house is gone now. The windows, the glass, the warm light up in the ceiling. The heat that arrives on its own is gone too. The thick coats hanging in the closet are gone. All of it slowly fading like breath on cold air. Go back past your grandparents, and their grandparents, and theirs. Back past the towns and the roads and the farms. Back to a time long before any of it was ever built. Back to a world of open land, deep snow, and long, dark winters. And there in the distance you see it. A thin line of smoke rising slowly into a wide grey sky. You are standing at the edge of a small winter camp. The land is white and quiet all around you. Snow drifts softly across the ground, moving with the wind. The cold out here is real, and it is deep. But it is not angry, and it is not coming for you. You are only here to watch. And near that rising smoke, somewhere in the heart of the camp, small fire is glowing. A single, steady, amber light in all that white. It is a strange thing when you stop to think about it. People were never really made for a place like this. We have no thick fur to keep out the cold. We have no deep layer of fat under the skin, the way a seal or a whale does. We cannot fall into a long winter sleep the way a bear can and simply wait for the snow to leave. On its own, the human body is soft and bare and not very strong against the cold at all. But that is not the end of the story, because the people in that camp had something else. Something quieter and far more powerful. They had clever hands that could build and make, mend. They had good memories that held the lessons of every winter that had come before. They had careful minds that could think ahead and plan for the cold long before it arrived. And most of all, they had each other. That was their real winter coat. Not fur, and not fat. It was their minds, their hands, their memory, and the people resting beside them. And before they could ever live through the cold, they first had to make their own warmth. So, how did they do it? How did people like us, soft and bare, through winters that could bury the whole world in ice and silence? There is no single answer. There was no one great secret, no magic, clever trick that saved them. Instead, there were many small skills, quiet, patient skills, learned slowly and done again and again. Careful fire, a warm coat, a strong shelter, a store of food, and a circle of people who looked after one another. And over the long, calm nights ahead, we will sit close to that fire and learn them one gentle step at a time. But not yet. For now, there is nothing you need to understand, and nothing you need to remember. You can let all of it drift past you, soft and slow, like the snow outside. For now, just stay here, beside the warm amber glow of that little fire, while the wind moves gently across the land. The camp quietly settles in for the night. Now, let your mind move a little closer to that small fire in the middle of the camp. You are sitting beside it now, low to the ground, close enough to reach it. It is not a wild, leaping fire. There are no tall flames here. It is something quieter than that. A low bed of glowing coals, deep orange and soft red, with a few small flames moving slowly over the top, breathes a little, the way a sleeping animal breathes. Every now and then, a piece of wood settles with a soft crack. A few sparks lift up and fade into the dark. Hold your hands out. Toward it. The heat reaches your fingers first. They were a little stiff from the cold, and now they begin to loosen, slow and easy. Then the warmth climbs up to your face, and your cheeks grow soft. The front of you feels held by the fire, while your back stays cool. Turn toward the wide and frozen night. So you turn, slowly, the way everyone here learns to turn. A little this way, a little that way, letting the heat reach all of you, bit by bit. Fire is doing more than warming your skin. Just beside it, a few damp hides hang over a low wooden frame. They were wet from the snow, and now, gentle heat, they are slowly drying. You can almost smell it. The warm, earthy smell of leather, growing soft and dry again. A little food cooks too, resting close to the coals. Nothing is rushed. It cooks slowly in its own time, and the smell of it drifts through the camp, simple and good. And you are not alone at this fire. Around the same low light, a few others sit close together. Their faces glow softly, gold on one side, in shadow on the other. No one is in a hurry to speak. Someone mends a strap of leather. A child leans against an older shoulder, half asleep. This is where the people of the camp come at the end of the day. Not only for the heat, for the quiet comfort of being near the same light, while the dark waits outside. It is easy to think that fire was just found, discovered once, long ago, and kept forever after. But it was never that simple. A fire like this one had to be cared for every single day. If the wood ran low or the coals grew too cold, the fire would quietly fade and die. And making a new one, out in the cold, with cold hands, was slow and difficult work. So the people here learned never to let that happen. The fire was not only a comfort to them, it was something alive in the heart of the camp, and it was their job to keep it breathing. And so, in the deep middle of the night, someone always wakes. Not with a start. Not in fear. Just a slow, quiet waking, the kind your own body does when it half knows it is time. They rise a little from beneath the warm hides, still heavy with sleep, and they reach toward the fire. They lay a small piece of wood onto the glowing coals, and wait, and watch the red light catch and grow. Then, when the fire is breathing steadily again, they lie back down and let sleep take them once more. It is a small thing. They have done it 1,000 times. Their hands know the way, even when their eyes are almost closed. And when the camp must move on, to follow the animals, or to find better shelter, the fire goes with them. They do not leave it behind to die. They take a few of the best, hottest coals and wrap them with great care, in moss, in bark, inside a horn, or a small clay pot, so the glow is kept safe and alive through the whole journey. A single hidden ember carried gently across the snow, and wherever they stop next, that one saved spark becomes the new fire, the new center, the new warm heart of the camp. You don't need to hold on to any of this. You can let it drift past you, slow and warm, way the firelight drifts across the wall. There is nothing for you to keep alive tonight. Your fire is already lit. You can simply rest beside it. So the fire kept the whole camp warm. It dried their clothes and cooked their food and held back the long dark night. Fire can only stay in one place. It cannot follow you out across the snow, where the wood is gathered and the animals are found. And out there, far from the coals, the cold is always waiting. So the people needed another kind of warmth. A warmth they could wear, warmth they could carry with them, on their own bodies, wherever they had to go. But that is for another night. For now, stay here, close to the glow, while the wind moves softly over the land outside, and let yourself drift. First kind of warmth a person could wear was a simple one. It was a thick animal hide, soft and heavy, laid over the shoulders. Imagine it now, resting across your own back. It is heavy, heavier than you might think, but it is a good weight, the kind that makes your shoulders drop and your whole body feel still. The fur on the outside is deep and soft. The leather underneath has been worked by hand over many long evenings, rubbed and pressed and softened until it bends easily and rests gently against the skin. Making leather soft was slow, quiet work. Someone would sit close to the fire and work the hide between their hands, warming it, pressing it, again and again, until all the stiffness was gone. Nothing was wasted, and nothing was rushed. When the wind rises, you pull the edges close, wrapping the hide around the front of you, holding the warmth inside. Nearby, a small child is tucked beneath a larger covering, almost hidden, only a sleepy face showing. Two people might share one wide skin's minty between them, sitting close, keeping each other warm. But a loose skin over the shoulders can only do so much. It is open at the front. It is open at the sides. When the wind moves, it finds those gaps and slips inside and touches the warm skin beneath. Covering like this is a good start. It is far better than nothing. But the cold is patient and it finds every opening. To truly stay warm, people would need something better. Clothing that closed around the body and held the warmth in. And the thing that made that possible was very, very small. It was a needle, a tiny sliver of bone or smooth ivory, carefully shaped and rubbed until it was thin and sharp at one end, and near the other end, the most important of all, a tiny hole drilled slowly through the bone, just big enough to hold a thread. It does not look like much. You could rest it in the palm of your hand and barely feel it there. But this little needle quietly changed everything. Picture someone sitting close to the low fire, in the soft evening light. In their hands is the needle, and a fine thread made from animal sinew. Slowly, carefully, they begin to sew. The needle slips through the leather and out the other side, again and again in a slow and steady rhythm. Psst. There is no hurry, there is only the small movement of the hands and the quiet by the fire. And as the sewing goes on, over many evenings, real clothing begins to take shape. Two pieces of hide are joined into a sleeve that fits the arm. Edges are closed up tight, so the wind cannot slip through. One soft layer is sewn over another, thin against the skin, thicker on the outside, and here is the quiet magic of it. When clothing fits closely, it holds a thin layer of warm air right against the skin. And that little layer of warm air is what keeps you warm. Now a person could stand and walk out into the snow and stay warm while they moved. They could gather wood, travel far, and the warmth would go with them. But the body has parts that the cold reaches first. The hands, the feet, the face, these needed special care. Think of the hands. Out in the cold, fingers grow stiff and clumsy very quickly, so the people learn to cover them. Not with separate fingers, but with soft mittens that held all the fingers together. Kept close like that, the fingers shared their warmth and stayed warm far longer. The feet needed boots, and the boots had to do two things at once. They had to be warm, soft on the inside, lined with fur, but they also had to stay dry. Wet feet in the cold are a real danger, so the boots were made and cared for carefully, to keep the snow from soaking through. Dry, warm feet were feet that could carry you all day. On the face, where the skin was left open to the wind, a person might smooth a little soft animal fat across their cheeks, a thin shield against the bite of the cold air. And in the brightest places, where the sun shone hard on endless white snow, the light itself could hurt the eyes. People learned to shield them. sometimes with a small piece of bone or wood held across the face, with only a narrow slit to look through, just enough to see and to soften that sharp white glare. All of this came back to one simple idea. Warm hands could work. They could hold a tool, and sew a seam, and carry wood to the fire. Cold, stiff hands could do none of it. Keeping the body warm was never only about comfort. It was how the whole camp kept on living. And so, on a quiet evening like this one, you might see all of it come together. The fire is low and steady. Outside, the wind presses softly against the wall, but it cannot get in. Inside, the people are getting ready for sleep, doing the small calm work of caring for their clothes. One person checks a boot, feeling for a worn spot. Another sits with the little bone needle, mending a seam that has come loose, closing it up before the cold can find it. Mitten is set near the warmth to dry. A heavy fur is shaken out and laid down soft, ready for the night. There is something gentle in it. These clothes were not made once and then forgotten. They were looked after every single day, checked, dried, and mended, so they would keep a family warm through the whole long winter. Each small repair was a quiet act of care. You don't need to do any of this tonight. Your own warmth is already here, resting around you. You can simply watch their hands move in the firelight, slower and slower, and let your own eyes grow heavy. One by one, the small jobs are finished. The needle is set down. The mended clothes are folded close. People settle in beneath their warm skins, safe inside, while the wind moves softly over the land outside. Sleep is not far away now. Let it come, slow and easy, like the quiet that settles in after the work is done. Now let the fire grow small behind you, and let the world open up, because warmth was never only about one fire or one warm coat. Long before the hardest cold arrived, there was a bigger question for the people to answer. Where would they spend the winter? Where would they build their home and wait out the longest, coldest months? This choice was made early, while the days were still soft and the snow was still light. People did not wait for the deep cold to arrive and then go looking for shelter. By then it would be too late. They thought ahead. They planned, and so, before the worst of winter, the group would gather their things and set out, carrying what they owned on their backs, folded hides and tools. The small wrapped ember from the old fire, kept glowing and safe for the journey. It had to be the right place, because they might stay there a long time. A poor choice meant a hard winter. Too much wind, too little wood, too far from water. A good choice meant a winter they could live through in comfort and safety. So the people walked and watched carefully at the land around them. They were not wandering. They were searching for something, a place that would hold them, keep them, until the warm days came back. As they walk, the people read the land the way you might read a familiar face. They look for the places where the wind grows quiet. Out in the open, the wind moves fast and cold across the snow. But behind a low hill, down in a sheltered dip, the air can go still. A line of trees can soften the wind too, breaking it before it reaches the camp. Slope or a rocky ridge at the back can block the coldest gusts, standing like a wall against them. Now and then they stop and stand quietly and simply look, feeling which way the wind comes from, watching how the snow lies across the ground. They notice where the snow piles up deep. They learn to set their home where it will not be buried. They look up and think about the smoke, because a fire makes smoke, and that smoke needs open sky to rise and drift away, so the air stays clean and easy to breathe. And they look for what they will need close by: water, a stream, or a place where clean snow can be melted down, something to burn like wood or dry bone, the quiet trails where animals pass through the land. The best winter home sat near all of these at once, so that nothing was too far to reach when the deep cold made every step harder. And so they move, slowly, across the wide white land. There is no hurry in their steps. The walking is steady, and even, one foot after the other, in a slow and patient rhythm. The snow gives a soft, quiet crunch beneath each step. Their breath rises in little clouds in the cold air and then fades away. Each person carries a bundle on their back, hides and tools, and food wrapped carefully for the road. The loads are heavy, but the people are used to them, and they share the weight between them. Behind the older ones, the children, follow. And in the deep snow, child does a clever thing. They step into the footprints left by the grown-up in front, placing each small foot inside a print already made. It is easier that way, and a little warmer, and it keeps them close. A line of people walking softly into the white, each one following the steps of the one before. All around them, the land is wide and open and very quiet. Snow stretches out in every direction. The world feels muffled and soft, as if a thick blanket has been laid over everything, hushing every sound. There is only the steady crunch of footsteps and the low sound of the wind moving far off across the snow. No one speaks much. There is no need. They simply walk together toward the place they have chosen. How did the people know all of this? How did they know which slope would block the wind, or where the snow would gather, or where the animals would pass? None of it was ever written down. There were no maps, and no books, and no words on a page. All of this knowledge lived inside the people themselves. It lived in their memory, in the many winters they had seen before. It lived in their feet, in the paths they had walked again and again. It lived in small gestures, a nod, pointing hand, a quiet word passed from one person to another. And most of all, it lived in the old ones, the elders, who had watched more winters than anyone, and who carried the stories of where to go, and what to do, and how to stay safe. You can let all of that wash over you, gentle and slow. There is nothing for you to learn tonight, and nothing for you to remember. And then, at last, the walking slows. The people stop. Ahead of them is the place they were looking for, a sheltered spot, with a ridge rising at its back, trees standing nearby, and the wind grown soft and quiet here. It is not a home yet. It is only an empty place in the snow. There's still much work to do before the cold deepens. But standing there, looking at it, the people feel something settle inside them, quiet promise. Not comfort, not yet, but the possibility of it. Here they could be safe. Here they could make it through. When you think of ancient people and winter, you might picture a cave, a deep, dark hole in the rock with a fire near the mouth. And some people did live in caves, when the land gave them one. But caves were not everywhere. Most of the time, there was no cave waiting. People did something just as clever. They built their own. They built with whatever the land around them offered. In one place, it might be wood. In another, where trees were few, it might be bone, or stone, or packed earth, or even the snow itself. People looked at what they had, and they made a home out of it. There was no single right way. There was only the place, the materials, patient work of hands. So let us watch a shelter rise. Slowly on that chosen spot in the snow, begins with the frame, the bones of the home. Long poles of wood, or the great curved bones of large animals, are lifted and set into the ground. They are pushed down deep, so the wind cannot move them, and lean together at the top until they form a strong, round shape. One by one they are added, tied and braced, until the bare frame stands against the grey sky. It is just a skeleton for now, open to the air. It is the beginning of everything. Next come the walls. Large hides, softened and sewn together, are stretched across the frame and pulled tight. You can almost hear it. The heavy flap and drag of the skins, the low voices of the people working together, the dull thud of stones being set down. Around the bottom edge, heavy stones are laid to hold the hides firmly to the ground, so the wind cannot lift them or sneak underneath. Slowly, the open frame becomes a closed, solid shape, and the sound of the wind outside grows just a little softer. But the people do not stop there. To make the home truly strong against the cold, they build it up from the outside. Earth is piled against the walls. Snow is packed on thick, pressed down by hand and foot until it holds, and into every small crack and gap, soft moss is pushed, sealing the seams where the cold air might slip through. The work is slow and careful. A hand pressing here, a stone set there, a handful of moss tucked into a thin opening. Nothing rushed. Each small action makes the home a little tighter, a little warmer, and the way in is built with care too. The entrance is kept low and small, just big enough to crawl through. It is not a wide open door. Small entrance lets very little of the cold inside and keeps the warm air from rushing out. Sometimes a hide hangs over it, like a soft curtain, ready to be pulled closed against the night. Now, here is the quiet secret of a home like this. The shelter does not make any heat of its own. It is not warm by itself. It has no fire in its walls. What it does is far simpler and just as important. It keeps the warmth from escaping. Think of it this way. Inside there is a little fire and the warm bodies of the people. That warmth wants to drift away, out into the cold, but the thick walls, the packed earth, the snow, the sealed gaps, all of it slows that warmth down and holds it in. The cold outside is pushed back. Warmth inside is kept close. The shelter is like a cup, gently holding something precious, so it does not spill away. That is enough to turn a freezing night into a night a family can rest through, safe and warm. You don't need to follow any of how it works. You can simply feel it. The walls are up, the gaps are sealed, the warmth is held. There is nothing left for you to do but be inside. And so, let us step in. Crawl gently through the low entrance and let the hide fall closed behind you. And at once everything changes. Outside, the world is white and wide and moving, snow drifting, wind sliding across the open land. But in here, the air has gone still. Wind is only a soft sound now, pressing against the wall from far away, unable to reach you. The cold has been left outside. Let your eyes move slowly around the inside of the home. It is small and close and snug. The light is low and gentle. Tools hang neatly along the wall, within easy reach. A sharp blade, a bone needle, a coil of cord. Soft hides are folded into a corner, ready to become a warm bed when sleep comes. And the food has been set carefully in a dry place, kept away from the damp, where it will keep well through the long months ahead. Everything has its place. Everything is in order. This is a home now. It is a small thing, this shelter. Out in that endless white land, it is only a tiny dot, a single point of warmth in a world of cold and snow. If you could rise up high and look down, you would see it there. One small, round home, with a thin thread of smoke rising from it, surrounded on every side by the vast and quiet winter. But it is enough. It is a little island made by human hands in the middle of all that cold, a safe place, a warm place. A place that says, even in the deepest winter, here we can live, and for tonight you are inside it. The walls are strong. The warmth is held close. The wind moves softly over the land outside, far away now and cannot touch you. Rest here, in your small safe island, and let yourself drift. Not every winter home was built the same way, because not every land was the same. In some places, the people walked out onto wide open plains, where the ground rolled flat to the edge of the sky, and almost nothing grew. No forests, no tall trees, hardly any wood at all. And this was a real problem. In a land with no wood, how do you build a frame? How do you raise the bones of a home when there are no poles to lift and no branches to lean together? A people without wood could have turned away from this empty country and left it behind. But they did not. They looked at the land, at what it truly held, and they found their answer in something extraordinary. They built their homes from giants. Across these cold plains, long ago, walked the great mammoths, huge animals, far larger than any creature you have ever stood beside, with long, curved tusks and heavy bones. And after a mammoth had lived its long life and passed from the world, its great bones would remain, resting on the open land. People came to see these bones not as something to fear, but as a gift the land had offered, a material, a way to build where nothing else would do. So let us watch such a home take shape, slowly in the mind's eye. It begins with the largest bones of all, heavy skulls and great leg bones, so big that it takes several people working together just to move a single one. These are set carefully into the ground in a wide ring to form the strong, deep base of the walls. You can feel the weight of them, the solid heaviness, as they settle into the frozen earth and hold fast. This is a home built on a scale that is hard to imagine. Walls made not of sticks but of the mighty frame of a giant. Then come the tusks, long, smooth and beautifully curved. The great tusks are lifted up and arched overhead, leaning together near the top, shaping the roof like the ribs of some vast and ancient thing. They curve over the people below, strong and graceful, holding the whole shape together. Over this frame of bone and tusk, hides are drawn across and pulled tight, closing the gaps between. And then, as with any winter home, earth is banked against the walls, and snow is packed thick over all of it, until the shelter is solid and closed against the cold. From the outside it stands like a low, rounded hill on the open plain, quiet and strong, thin thread of smoke rising into the wide grey sky. Now it would be easy to look back at people who lived so very long ago and imagine they simple. To think they did not know much, that they were only barely getting by. But to build a home like this is the work of a clever and careful mind. Think of what it asks. To look at an empty, treeless land and see, not nothing, but a home waiting to be made. To know which bones were strong enough to bear the weight, and how to set them so they would not fall. To understand how to curve the tusks into a roof, and how to seal the walls against the wind. These people had no books to learn from, no drawings to follow. No one had written down how it should be done. They carried the whole design in their minds, shaped it with their hands, learning from what they had seen and tried before. They were builders. They were planners. In their own quiet way, they were engineers, reading the land and solving its hardest problems with whatever it placed before them. There is nothing simple about that at all. Now let us step inside and rest there for a while. The space within is close and snug, the light low and soft and golden from the small fire, but it feels different from any other shelter. For here you are held inside the great curved bones of a giant. The walls around you are heavy, ancient, and still. Look up and you can see a long sweep of the tusks arching overhead, like the inside of something enormous, sheltering you from the night. And the quiet in here is a deep quiet. The thick walls of bone and earth and snow hold back almost every sound. The wind that races across the open plain outside becomes only a faint, distant hush. Inside, there is the soft breathing of the fire, the gentle settling of the people, and very little else. It is the kind of stillness you can sink right down into. There is something to feel here, too, beyond just the warmth. This home is more than walls. It is made of memory, of an animal that once walked these very plains, across the same frozen ground beneath you. It is made of work, of many hands lifting, setting, and sealing over many long days. The whole shelter is labour, and memory made solid, standing quietly around you, keeping you safe. Giant that once crossed this land now keeps the cold away from a sleeping family. There is a gentle kind of wonder in that. You don't need to hold on to any of these thoughts. You can let them drift, soft and slow, the way the firelight moves across the curved walls. Nothing for you to build tonight, and nothing for you to carry. The work is long finished. The home is strong. You are simply resting inside it. So stay here a moment longer, in this strange and ancient shelter. Beneath the great arching bones, fire glows low and warm. The walls hold steady, and far outside, across the wide and open plain, the wind moves softly over the snow, cannot reach you here. The home is built now. The frame is up, the walls are closed, the entrance is set. From the outside it looks finished. It is not finished, not yet, because the difference between a cold home and a warm one is not in the big walls at all. It is in the small, quiet work that comes after. It is in the ceiling, and so the people begin the slow, gentle task of closing every gap. First thing they reach for is the snow itself. It seems strange at first, because snow is cold. Cold to the touch. Very thing they are trying to keep out. Take a little in your hand, and you feel it, soft and chill against your skin. And yet, packed thick around the outside of the home, snow becomes one of the warmest things of all. It does not let the warmth from inside slip through. It holds it close, the way a soft lid holds the heat over a bowl. So the people gather it and press it against the walls, patting it down, smoothing it over. Their hands move slowly, pressing and smoothing, until a thick white blanket lies snug and even against every side. But the snow seals the outside. There are smaller gaps, too, in the walls themselves, where thin threads of cold still find their way through. And these are closed with the softest, most patient work of all. Someone kneels by the wall with a handful of moss, green, soft, and damp. Slowly, gently they press it into a thin crack between the hides, pushing it in with their fingertips, tucking it deep until the gap disappears. Then they move along to the next one, and do it again. Press and tuck, smooth. Press and tuck and smooth. Where the seams meet, soft mud is spread along the join, filling each little space and drying in place. Handfuls of dry grass are pushed into the corners. Strips of bark are laid over the wider gaps, and here and there, sticky pine pitch is dabbed along a seam, sealing it shut like a soft, warm glue. There is no hurry in any of it. It is slow, careful, quiet work, done by the soft light of the fire. You can almost hear it, the faint brush of moss being pressed in, the gentle scrape of mud being smoothed, and beneath it all, the slow, steady breathing of people at calm and easy work. Inside, the people think about the air and the way it moves. They have learned something simple and true over many winters. Warm air rises and cold air sinks. The cold always settles low, pooling along the floor like quiet water, while the warmth gathers up above. So they are careful about where they will sleep. They do not lie down on the bare, cold ground. Instead, they build their sleeping places up, a little off the floor, laying down branches, dry grass, then thick, soft hides, one over another, until there is a raised, padded bed that lifts them above the chill, a warm nest held gently up out of the cold. And now and then someone feels a thin thread of cold slipping in from somewhere, and they lay a folded hide across the spot, or tuck a loose corner down tight, until the draught is gone and the air goes still again. The doorway, too, is kept low and small, close to the ground, so the coldest air stays trapped down by the entrance, while the warmth rises and stays where the people rest. And as all of this is done, gap by gap, seam by seam, something begins to change. You can hear it if you listen. When the home was first raised, the wind outside was loud and close, pushed at the walls and slipped through the small openings, a thin, cold voice that never quite stopped. But with every crack that is sealed, that voice grows softer. Each handful of moss, each smoothing of mud, takes a little more of the sound away. And so the wind slowly fades, does not stop blowing. Out there, it still moves across the snow, the same as ever. But in here, it becomes only a low, far-off hush, like a sound heard through deep water. Muffled, distant, gentle, and as the wind grows quieter, the inside grows warmer, and stiller, and calmer. With every sealed seam, the home holds its warmth a little closer. The air settles, the fire's glow steadies, the last small draughts disappear, and a deep, soft quiet fills the space. The quiet of a place the cold has finally been shut out of. Quiet. You could almost feel resting on your skin. By now, the home has become something more than walls and poles and packed snow, become a cocoon. Picture it, soft hides layered all around, moss tucked into every gap, snow blanketing the outside, warm raised bed in the centre, and the low fire glowing in the middle of it all. Everything close, everything soft, everything sealed. A small, round, warm space, wrapped tight against the vast cold night, the way a seed lies wrapped and waiting inside its shell. Inside, people sink down onto their soft beds. Their breathing slows. The fire burns low and steady, its light moving gently across the close, warm walls. And around the little cocoon of the home, far out across the dark and frozen land, the wind moves softly over the snow. The long winter night goes quietly on. There is one more thing a winter home needed. Beyond warm walls and a steady fire, it needed food. Enough to last through all the long, cold months, when the land outside gave very little and almost nothing grew. But the people did not wait for hunger to arrive and then begin to worry. That was not how they lived. Winter was something they prepared for, long ahead of time, while the warmer days still held. All through the gentler seasons, they gathered and they stored, a little at a time, setting aside what they would need. By the time the deep cold came, the work was already done, and the food was already waiting, so there was no fear in it, no scramble, no panic. Only the quiet knowledge that they had thought ahead and prepared well and would have enough. Winter was not survived in the moment. It was survived in advance, through many small, calm, careful acts, repeated over and over. Each day added a little to the store. A handful here, a bundle there. None of it dramatic, none of it rushed. Only steady hands doing steady work, the way it had been done for more winters than anyone could count. So picture the quiet work of preparing the food once it had been gathered and brought home. Near the fire stands a low wooden frame, and over it hang long, thin strips of meat, laid out to dry. Beneath them, a small fire smoulders, not a hot, leaping flame, but a soft, smoky one, sending up a thin, pale curl of smoke that rises gently around the strips. The smell of it fills the air, warm and rich and a little sweet, good smell of food being saved for later. Slowly, over hours and days, the smoke and the gentle heat do their patient work. The strips lose their dampness. They grow firmer and darker and drier until they are tough and light and will keep for many long months without spoiling. Someone tends them now and then, turning them, checking them with careful fingers. You could run a hand along a finished strip and feel it, firm and dry, no longer soft, ready to be wrapped and set away. There is something deeply calm in it. The slow smoke, the steady warmth, the quiet patience of waiting for food to be ready not in minutes but in days. And once the food was dried, or once fresh food needed keeping, the people turned to their greatest helper of all, the cold itself. Out here, the deep cold was not only an enemy, it was also a gift. The same frozen ground that made life so hard could keep food fresh and safe for a very long time, much like the coldest corner of a kitchen does today. So the people learned to use it. They wrapped bundles of food in hide and bark, tucked them into cool, shaded places away from the sun. They dug pits down into the frozen earth and lowered their stores inside. Cold ground held everything still and safe. And over the top they laid a covering of packed snow, a soft white lid, sealing the store, hiding it from the wind. To find it all again later, when the snow lay deep and the land looked the same in direction, they marked each place. Particular stone, a branch set just so, or simply a clear, sure memory held in the mind. The store is there, beside the leaning rock, 3 steps from the old tree. Walk past such a place, and you would never know it was there at all. Only a smooth, plain patch of snow, quiet and still, holding a whole winter's worth of food safe beneath it. Nothing was lost, nothing was forgotten. Of all the foods they kept, some were treated with special care. The fat and the marrow from deep inside the bones were among the most precious things of all. Today we might not think much of them. But to people living through a deep cold winter, fat was something close to treasure, warmed the body from the inside. It gave strength and lasting energy, the kind that carried a person through a long cold day, and so it was never wasted. Every bit of it was saved with care, kept soft and valuable, set aside for the days when that deep, steady warmth would matter most. In truth, almost nothing was wasted at all. What could be eaten was eaten, what could be saved was saved, what could be turned into tools, or clothing, or thread, was set aside. For that, every part had its place, and its purpose was a heart forced upon them. It was simply the quiet, sensible rhythm of people who understood the value of what they had. Day after day, these small acts repeated, saving, wrapping, setting aside, till they became less like work, and more like a gentle rhythm running softly beneath everything else. And then, at last, cold evening like this one, comes the reward for all that patient work. The light outside has faded. The family gathers in close around the fire, warm, sealed home, and a small meal is shared. It is not a feast. There are no great piles of food, no rich and endless spread. 'Tis simply enough. A piece of dried meat, perhaps, softened in warm water, and a little of that precious fat, shared out evenly among them all. But it is warm, and it is good, and there is a deep comfort in it. They eat slowly, without hurry, passing food from hand to hand. There is the soft sound of a shared meal. Low voices, the crackle of the fire, the small contented sounds of people who are warm and fed, safe together. No one takes too much, no one goes without. Everything that was set aside through the long, bright days is now quietly keeping them live through the dark, cold night, exactly as it was meant to. Outside, the snow lies deep over the hidden stores. The wind moves softly across the frozen land. Inside, the fire glows low. The last of the meal is passed from hand to hand. The long winter night settles in, warm and steady and enough. Now we must follow some of the people out, away from the warm home, onto the open snow, because not all of winter's food could be stored ahead of time. Sometimes, through the cold months, people needed to go out and find more. They needed to hunt, but put away any picture of a wild racing chase. Real hunting in the deep cold, almost the opposite of that. It was not about running, or speed, or force. It was about patience. It was about knowing. A hunt was won long before anyone set out. One in the mind, in years of quietly watching the land and the animals that moved across it. People knew the seasons. and the paths the great herds followed as they crossed the country. They knew where the animals would dig for food beneath the snow and where they would shelter from the wind. They could read the weather, the depth of the snow, and the small signs that told them where life was moving. And just as importantly, they knew when not to go, when the cold was too deep or the animals too far, and it was wiser to stay warm and still, save their strength for a better day. The true skill was never in the chase at all. It was in the long, quiet patience of waiting and the deep knowing of when the right moment had finally come. So picture a small group of hunters setting out under a pale winter sky. They move slowly and they move quietly. There is no noise, no hurry. Only the soft crunch of careful steps in the snow, the white breath rising from them in the cold air. They keep low. They stay downwind, so no scent drifts ahead to warn the animals they seek. Movement is calm and considered. As they go, they read the land like a story written across the snow. Here, line of tracks. Fresh prints pressed into the white, telling them an animal passed this way. And not long ago, one hunter kneels, touches the edge of a print, reading its shape and its softness, learning how recent it is and which way it leads. The others wait behind, still and silent, watching. They barely speak at all. A word might carry too far in the cold, quiet air. So instead they talk in small, slow gestures. A raised hand, a pointed finger, a gentle nod toward a distant shape. A whole plan can pass between them without a single sound. And then, often, comes the hardest part of all, the waiting. They settle down into stillness, low against the snow, and they wait. Time passes slowly, cold presses in around them. But they hold their patience, as quiet as the land itself. All around them, world is utterly still. The wide white ground, the soft grey sky, the gentle hush of snow drifting down. The hunters become part of that stillness, breathing slow, waiting, watching, until, at last, the moment is right. What happens next, we will let pass quietly. The hunt comes to its end the way it must, so that the people can live and be clothed, stay warm through the long winter. But there is no need to linger on that moment. Let us turn away from it gently, way the snow itself softens every hard edge, and let it fade into the pale and quiet sky. There is a deep and ancient thankfulness in these people, an understanding that the animal's life now becomes the life of the camp, that such a gift must be honoured by using all of it, and wasting none. So let us return instead to the warmth of the home, where the truest part of the story unfolds. What the people do with what the land has given them. Piece by piece, what was brought back is turned into the things that keep them alive. The hide is cleaned and scraped and softened. That same slow, patient work from before, until it can become a warm covering, or a wall for a shelter, or a pair of soft boots. The long sinew is drawn out and dried, to become the strong thread that the little bone needle pulls through every seam. Bones are saved as well, some to be shaped into tools, and into those very needles themselves. And the meat is prepared with care, a little to be eaten now, warm by the fire, and much of it dried and smoked and stored away for the cold months still ahead. Do you see how all of it connects? The hunt fills the food store. The hide becomes the clothing and the shelter. The sinew becomes the thread. Bone becomes the needle that sews everything together. Every single thing the people had built. The warm coats, the sealed home, full store of food, came in the end from this quiet, patient knowledge of the animals and the land. It was all one great circle, turning slowly, each part feeding the next. And outside, as the light begins to fade, the hunters come home. They move slowly back across the snow, tired but calm, under a dim and quiet sky. They carry no great drama with them, and no wild tale. They carry only the steady, patient result of their long waiting, enough to keep their people warm and fed a little while longer. Behind them, footprints trail away into the dusk. Ahead, the small glow of the home waits. Thin smoke of its fire rises softly into the deepening dark. The fire, the clothing, the shelter, food. There was one thing holding it all together. One thing that mattered more than any single tool or any single skill. That was the people themselves, each other. Because no one survived a winter like this alone. It simply could not be done. The work was too great, and the cold too deep, for any one person to face by themselves. Survival was something the people did together, side by side, sharing everything they had, and so the days were shared. One person tended the fire while another mended a torn coat. Someone worked to hide soft while someone else prepared the food. The older children watched over the little ones, keeping them close and warm and out of trouble. The young ones learned by helping, their small hands working beside older ones. And the elders, hands had grown slow with age, were cared for in turn. Given the warmest places, the softest hides, and a fair share of everything, quiet thanks for all they had taught. No one was left to carry their burden alone. If one person grew tired, another took up the work. One fell ill, the others kept them warm and fed until their strength returned. The strength of the group was never in any single person. It was in the way they all held together, like the woven threads of one warm cloth. This sharing was not a rule anyone had to be told. It was simply how people lived, and how they had always lived. Close and joined, and looking after one another. And nowhere was this closeness felt more deeply than at night. Come back, now, inside the warm and sealed home, in the deep of a winter night. The fire has burned down low, just a soft bed of glowing embers, casting a faint and gentle light across the walls, and all around it, close together, people sleep. They lie near to one another, beneath shared hides and furs, their bodies warm against the cold. There is a deep comfort in the closeness, the simple living warmth of resting near other people, each one giving a little of their heat to the next. Still, the only sounds are soft ones, the slow, even breathing of people lost in sleep, the faint settling of the coals, the gentle quiet of a home at rest. Breathe slowly here in time with the sleeping camp, in and out, soft and unhurried, the way a whole roomful of resting people breathe together in the dark. Now and then, the gentle rhythm shifts, just a little. Someone stirs, half waking, and reaches over to lay another small piece of wood onto the embers, keeping the glow alive through the night, and then sinks back into sleep. A child turns over beneath the hides, murmuring softly, and settles again. An elder, somewhere in the dark, lets out a quiet sigh, or a few soft words from a dream, before falling still once more. And then the deep, warm quiet returns, and folds itself over everything again. And you are here too, among them. Let yourself feel it. You are lying within that close, warm circle, beneath the soft weight of the hides, with the low fire glowing nearby, and the breathing of others all around you. You are not at the edge, and you are not alone. You are held right in the middle of it all, surrounded on every side by warmth, by the quiet presence of people watching over the night, even in their sleep. Whatever the cold may be doing out there cannot reach this place. There is nothing for you to guard against, and no watch for you to keep. Others are doing that the way they always have. Feel how safe a thing it is to sleep in the very middle of people who are all quietly keeping one another alive. It is worth knowing gently just how much this mattered. Out in such a winter, to be truly alone was the most dangerous thing of all. One person with no one to share the work, no one to keep the fire while they slept, no one to help if they were hurt or unwell. Such a person had little chance against the long cold. The winter was simply too big for one set of hands. But that is not a thought to hold on to, because it was so rarely how things were. People knew this deep in their bones, and so they stayed together. When things grew hard, they did not drift apart. They drew closer, pulled the circle tighter, shared what little they had, and met the cold shoulder to shoulder. And in that togetherness the danger softened, and the winter became something they could face, not as scattered, lonely figures, but as one warm and living whole. And so, if you were to ask what the greatest winter tool of all truly was, the answer would not be the fire, warm as it was. It would not be the fur, or the needle, or the shelter, or the deep store of food. All of those things mattered greatly. But the oldest and the strongest, all the winter tools, was something far simpler, and far warmer than any of them. It was each other. It was the hands that shared the work, bodies that shared their warmth, and the voices that passed down everything they knew. It was the quiet, ancient truth that people are warmer and safer and stronger together than they could ever be apart. And in the deep of the night the home holds them all. The sleeping children, the watchful elders, the softly glowing embers, the close and breathing dark. Outside, the wind moves gently over the snow, the long winter night goes on. But inside that small warm circle, no one is alone. And the night passes slowly, one shared breath at a time. There was one more thing the people carried with them through every winter. And it was not something you could hold in your hands, pack into a bundle, or store in a pit beneath the snow. It was knowledge, and in many ways it was the most precious thing of all. For none of these skills, the fire, the clothing, the shelter, the food, ever came to a person on their own. No one was born knowing which wood burns long and warm, and which only smokes and dies. No one simply knew which hides keep their softness through cold, and which grow stiff. These things had to be learned, and they were learned from those who had gone before. The elders held it all. In their long memories lived the answers to 1,000 small, important questions. How to dry a pair of boots near the fire without letting them crack. How to read the sky and know when a storm was on its way, where the snow drifts deepest and where the ground stays clear. How to mend a small tear in a seam before it grows into a large one and lets the cold come in. How to move slowly and rest often, and save your strength through the longest stretch of winter. Each of these was a small piece of survival, and together they were everything. This was the true inheritance, passed down through the years. Not things, not treasure, but knowing. A living memory, handed gently from older hands to younger ones, winter after winter, so that nothing learned was ever truly lost. And here is the gentle part. None of it was taught the way we might teach today. No classroom, no lessons, no sitting in rows. The learning simply happened, woven into the ordinary days, in the warm and quiet moments between the work. A child learned beside the fire, watching an older pair of hands, choose which piece of wood to lay on the coals, and slowly coming to understand why. Child learned beside the drying rack, seeing how the strips of meat were turned, and how the boots were set just so, near the warmth, but never too close. A child learned out in the snow, kneeling beside an elder who pointed to a line of tracks and showed, without many words, how to read what had passed by. The lesson was always there in the doing. Watch, and then try. Watch again, and try again. The small hands fumbled, at first clumsy and unsure. A seam came out crooked. A knot slipped loose, but no one minded. They simply tried once more, slowly. Through repeating it again and again, the knowledge sank down out of the head and into the hands themselves. Until one day the fingers knew the work on their own, without needing to be told. This was how it had always been done. Not by being told a thing once, but by doing it 100 quiet times, until it became a part of you. And the teaching itself was gentle. Picture an elder sitting close to a child by the low fire. The two of them bent over a small piece of work, a torn mitten, perhaps, waiting to be mended. The elder's own hands are slow now, the knuckles thick with age, but they still remember every movement. They guide the child's small fingers through the stitches, slowly, kindly. There is no sharpness in the voice, no hurry, anger when the child gets it wrong. Only patience and a quiet word, and a soft showing of the way once more. The elder has done this since for many winters with many children. They know that learning takes time, and that a frightened child learns nothing at all, so they teach the way the winter itself teaches. Slowly, steadily, with all the time in the world. A gentle hand resting over a smaller hand, calm voice, low and warm, explaining as they go. It is an intimate thing, this passing on. Two heads bent close together in the firelight, the old and the young, joined by the small work between their hands and the slow, patient voice that fills the quiet between them. And in this gentle way, everything the people knew was kept alive and carried forward from one warm pair of hands to the next. And so, on a night like this one, as the fire burns low and the home grows still, you might find one of these quiet lessons still going on. Child lies close beside an elder, beneath the warm hides, near the soft glow of the embers. The work of the day is long finished, and the elder is talking softly, not teaching now exactly, but telling. An old story, perhaps, of winters long past, or simply the small, quiet wisdom of the cold, spoken low and gentle into the dark. It is the kind of voice that asks nothing of you, and only carries you along. The child listens, warm and safe, eyes growing heavy. The elder's voice goes on, slow and even, rising and falling like something half-remembered. The words begin to blur and soften at their edges. The child no longer follows their meaning, only their gentle sound. A low, warm murmur in the dark, weaving in and out of the soft hush of the wind outside. Slower and softer the voice goes on, child's breathing deepens. Their eyes fall closed, and still the quiet voice murmurs on, blending now with the wind beyond the walls, till the two sounds become one, a single, gentle, drifting murmur, carrying the child down and down into the deep, warm dark of sleep. Now we come to the deepest part of the night, and the deepest part of our story. So let everything else fall away, let us simply be here, inside the shelter, in the still and quiet heart of a winter night. It is very late. Outside, the cold has reached its deepest hour, the world frozen hard and silent beneath the stars. But that cold is far away now. It is out there, beyond the walls, and it cannot come in. In here, everything is different. In here it is warm and dark and soft and still. The whole room is wrapped in a low amber glow, and every sound is muffled and gentle. It is the kind of stillness that asks nothing of you. The kind you can sink down into, slowly, the way you sink into warm water. Let your mind settle into this small, sheltered space. There is nowhere else to be tonight. Nothing else to think about. Only this. The gentle warmth, the low light, the quiet. Let us stay here together and move slowly through it. Let the night carry us down into rest. At the centre of it all is the fire. It has burned down low now, into a soft bed of glowing embers, deep orange, dusky red, breathing gently in the dark. There are no leaping flames at this hour, only the steady, living glow of the coals, rising and dimming, as slow and even as a sleeping breath. The light it gives is soft and golden, falls gently over everything. It does not push hard against the dark. It simply rests there, warm and amber, painting the walls in slow, shifting light. Watch it for a moment. The way the glow pulses ever so faintly, brightening and softening in a slow and quiet rhythm. Every now and then, a coal settles with a soft, faint crackle, and then falls quiet again. The air carries the gentle smell of wood smoke, warm and familiar. And the ember at the heart of it is the same ember that has been kept alive all along, tended through countless nights, fed and guarded and carried from place to place. It glows on now, faithful and steady, the small beating heart of the home, keeping the warmth alive while everyone sleeps. There is nothing for the fire to do now but glow, nothing for you to do but rest beside it. Let your eyes move slowly around the rest of the room in the soft amber light. Along the wall, the tools of the home hang quietly in their places. A blade, a coil of cord, the small bone needle, resting now, its work done for the day, catch the firelight faintly and hold still. Nearby, the soft hides are folded and layered into warm beds, and beneath them, people lie sleeping. In a dry corner, the stored food waits, the dried strips, the wrapped bundles, quiet and safe, enough to carry everyone through to the warmer days, and all around, the walls hold close and snug. Every gap is sealed, crack is filled with moss, and smoothed with mud, and packed tight against the cold. The walls have done their work, and now they simply stand, steady and warm, holding the night at bay. Everything here was made by patient hands. The fire, the clothing, the shelter, the food, careful sealing of every seam. All of that quiet work was done so that this single peaceful moment could exist. A warm, safe room, deep of a frozen night. You are resting now inside the sum of all of it. Every skill, every lesson, every careful effort, gathered together into one warm and quiet place. There is nothing left undone. It is all finished, and it is enough. Just beyond these warm walls lies the winter itself. Out there, the snow is banked high against the sides of the shelter, a thick, soft blanket of white, holding the warmth in and the cold out. And beyond it, the night stretches wide and frozen across the land. The deep snow, the dark sky, the endless quiet of the sleeping world. The wind is moving out there. You can hear it, very faintly, pressing softly against the wall. A low, distant hush, rising and falling, far away. That is all it is now. A sound. A soft, gentle sound at the very edge of sleep. It pushes at the walls, and the walls hold firm, and not a breath of it reaches inside. The cold can knock all it likes. It cannot come in. You are on the warm side of the wall, the safe side, the side with the fire, and the people, and the soft amber glow. It is the oldest comfort there is, to lie warm and still inside a small bright place, while the great cold passes harmlessly by, just beyond the reach of your hand. Come back now to the people resting all around you. They lie close together beneath the warm hides, deep in sleep. The slow, soft sound of their breathing, rising and falling all through the room, gentle and even like the quiet swell of the sea. Breathe with them if you like, in, slow and soft, and out, slower still. Let your own breath fall into time with theirs until you are simply one more sleeper in the warm and crowded dark. Firelight throws soft shadows up the walls, and they move slowly, swaying and shifting, slow as the breathing, slow as the glowing coals. There is no sharpness anywhere. Everything here moves gently, the light, the shadows, the breath, the warmth, all of it slow and soft and calm. You are here among them, held in the very heart of it. You lie wrapped in warm hides, with the soft fire glowing nearby, sleeping people close on every side. You are deep inside the shelter, deep inside the warmth, deep inside the safety of all that ancient, patient work. You can feel yourself growing heavier now, sinking down into the soft warmth beneath you, the way the embers sink slowly into their bed of ash. And now let it all grow quieter still. Let the fire burn lower, its glow softening to a deep, dim red. Let the shadows slow and still. Let the breathing of the sleepers grow fainter and farther away. Let the soft hush of the wind fade, until it is barely there at all. Everything is slowing now. Everything is growing soft and dim and far. There is nothing left to tend. Fire is fed. The walls are sealed. The food is stored. The people are warm. Every piece of work is finished. Every cold thing is held far away beyond the walls. All of it is done, and so there is nothing left for you to do now either. Nothing to carry, nothing to keep, nothing to hold on to. You can simply let go and let yourself sink down into the warmth and rest. So rest now, lie still and warm in the heart of the shelter, and let sleep come for you as gently as it comes for all of them. The embers glow low and amber in the dark. The sleepers breathe soft and slow. The snow lies deep and white over a quiet world. Far off beyond the walls, the wind moves gently across the land, and the long winter night drifts slowly on. So the long winter passes, the way all winters do, slowly, and then, somehow, all at once. You would not notice it on any single day. Cold does not simply lift and leave. But somewhere in the deep of the season, small things begin quietly to change. The light lasts a little longer now. The mornings come a touch sooner, and the dark falls a little later, and the days stretch out, soft and pale, few more minutes at a time. At the edges of things, the snow begins to soften. Along the stones that face the sun, and on the dark bark of the trees, it grows wet and heavy, and starts here and there to melt. And if you listen, in the quiet, you might hear it. The slow, gentle drip of meltwater, falling drop by drop from a stone, from a branch, from the edge of the shelter, first soft sound of the thaw. And there is a smell, too, faint on the air, the smell of wet earth, of thawing ground, something waking far beneath the snow. The people notice all of it. They have always lived close to the world, reading its small signs the way they read everything, and these signs tell them, gently, that the worst has passed. The warmth is coming back. They have made it through. There is no rush in this knowing, and no great celebration. Only a quiet ease settling over the camp. The soft, deep relief of people who have come safely through the long dark, and who feel at last the first far-off promise of spring. And as the snow softens, the light returns. It is worth looking back gently at all that carried them through. Think of everything you have seen on this long winter's journey. The fire, first of all, that small amber heart of the camp, kept alive every single day. The warm clothing shaped from soft hides by patient hands. The tiny bone needle, with its single thread, closed every seam against the cold. The shelter, raised from wood or from the great bones of giants, snow and moss and mud packed warm around it. The careful sealing of every gap until the home became a cocoon. The food, gathered and dried and stored long before it was ever needed. The deep, quiet knowledge of the animals and the land. The long nights of shared sleep, one warm body beside another. The elders passing down all they knew, hand to hand, voice to voice. And the endless patience, the slow, steady work, repeated day after day, without complaint. And beneath all of it, holding all of it together, was one thing more. One another. The simple fact of people staying close, sharing everything, and facing the cold not alone but as one. None of these things, on its own, would have been enough. But together, Woven into a single way of living, they were everything. Do you remember, at the very beginning, the question we asked? How did people survive winters that could bury the whole world in ice and silence? Now you know. This was the answer, all along. Not one great secret, not magic, and not luck. Only 100 small, patient acts of care, repeated through the long dark again and again, till the warmth came back. And now, very slowly, let us begin to come home. Let that ancient camp soften and grow gentle and start to fade. Let the wide, snowy land drift away into the distance. And let yourself rise, slowly, up through all the long years, back through time, all the way back to where you began. To your own warm bed, your own quiet room, this very night. Feel the warmth around you again. The soft blanket, the still, quiet air. The easy comfort that arrives without any effort at all. No fire to feed, no embers to guard through the night, no walls to seal against the dark. You have only to lie here and rest. But perhaps that warmth feels a little different now, a little deeper, because it did not come from nowhere. It is the far end of a very long story, a story of countless people across countless winters who learned, slowly and at great cost, how to make warmth and keep it and share it and live. Comfort, you know, tonight rests gently on top of all of theirs. You are warm in some quiet part because they were warm. You are here because they made it through. It is a long, unbroken chain of warmth and care, reaching all the way back into the deep past. And tonight, you rest at the very end of it, held safe just as they were held safe so long ago. So let yourself rest now, fully and deeply. There is nothing left to do tonight. The long story is told. The winter is survived. The warmth has been carried across all those years, right here to where you lie. You can let it all go now. Every thought, every small worry, every little weight of the day. Let them grow quiet, dim, and far away, the way the fire grows dim, the way the snow grows distant, the way the whole world softens at the edge of sleep. Let your breathing slow. Let your body grow heavy and warm. Let the quiet settle over you, soft and deep, slower and softer and deeper. Room grows still around you. The day falls away behind you, and the long, warm dark opens up gently ahead, ready to carry you down, as easily as an ember settling into ash. And somewhere far behind you now, far back at the very beginning of it all, the little fire still glows. In a small, warm shelter, deep in an ancient winter night, the embers burn low and amber in the dark. The people lie close together, breathing soft and slow, wrapped in their hides, sealed safe against the cold. Outside, the snow lies deep and white, and the wind moves gently across the frozen land. Inside, by the glow of that small faithful fire, they are warm, and they are together, and they are safe for the night.